Welcome to Veteran State of Mind. I'm your host, Geraint Jones, and it's been a break, been a while, been away for a while, back in now, and going to be, we've got, I think off the top of my head, we've got 10, 12 people lined up coming up over the next couple of months, so we'll be back at least every 2 weeks. That'll be the longest that you're going to go without an episode. We've got some War Story podcasts coming up. We've got Veteran State of Mind coming up. We've got different nationalities, some that we haven't had on before, so lots of great things in the pipeline. As always, guys, all we ask is if you enjoy the podcast, please share it with someone, be that telling them, text them, mate, the link, share it on social media. If you could leave a review, that really helps as well. If you're on Spotify, if you give it the all 5 stars, or if you're on iTunes, if you could leave a little review on there. Anything like that really helps us out to grow the podcast. So yeah, appreciate you bearing with us while we were on a bit of a hiatus. And we're back now, got a cracking episode today. Hopefully going to have him on for a few more episodes because he's got, an absolutely mental life, in both in and out of uniform. And we really barely scratched the surface today. So we've kind of just concentrated on his Iraq operations today. Next time we'll get into Afghanistan, and he's just got some really crazy stories which he's going to touch on at the end as well, and we'll get into those. He has written books, and I've actually read them myself years ago now before we kind of knew each other, and recommend those. They'll all be mentioned and linked up at the end. I want to let you guys get into it because I know you've been waiting a long time. So without further ado, please give a very warm welcome to Mr. Lee West, aka Westy. Westy, welcome to the podcast, mate. Good to have you on at last.
Cheers, mate. Made it.
Mate, we've got loads of stuff that we could talk about. We're not going to scratch the surface today. You're an international man of mystery. And obviously with this being the War Story podcast today, we're gonna drill down. We'll drill down on some of those. But just to give people the kind of brief overview, can you just give like a brief kind of summary of what your career in the military looked like?
Yeah, joined the reserves, Royal Engineers, actually, before, did a few years just to see if the military suited me and I suited them. Before then, plumped in to go full-time, Royal Marines. Joined in 2003. 4 days due to join Livingston, was watching Sky News and saw Royal Marines first troops to cross the border into Iraq. So I was just like that moment, like, wow, I'm joining that on Monday. And joined 2003 and did 17 years in total in the Royal Marines. I had medically retired 20 a month before COVID lockdown as colour sergeant. Did 4 combat tours of Iraq and Afghanistan, jungle, Arctic, para course, you name it.
So I want to go back to the beginning a little bit before we do that. When the Iraq invasion kicked off and you had, like you said, 4 days before, did you feel like you were going to miss out on that? Did you feel like you'd be waiting for the next kind of place?
Yeah, in fact, I had missed out because the reserve unit I was in deployed.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. So I knew it was likely to happen, but I'd already started the process. It takes like, 8 months from walking in the careers office to get to Livingston. So I knew once it was building up, I could have still sort of pulled out of joining and stayed on with the reserves, who then did deploy. But of course, in my mind, was like, well, they're going to be filling sandbags probably, and I am going to miss out now. And as a young lad, that is a big thing. You think, I want to be out there. I want to be doing it now. I had to take a step back and try and put a little bit of a sensible head on and go, well, you are going to miss out on this one, which you've been dreaming of doing. But you're not joining the Marines as a flash in the pan. You want to do it as a career. So you're going to get plenty of opportunities. So you got to play the long game. So actually, yeah, I did miss out initially, but knew that eventually it was going to come around and I was going to get my turn.
So what drew you to the military in the first place?
I didn't really have my heart set as a youngster, as a lot of people do. And I also wasn't pushed into it as a lot of lads are when they're sort of running away from something, maybe childhood trauma or broken homes, criminality. There wasn't any of that. I was, rather than running away from something, I was running into something. I'd had an interest in it from a young age, as most young lads do, running around, being active. watching the movies, reading the books. And that started to grow in my later years. And as my late teens, I started to read a lot more books about it, get interested, looked at the reserves. And I remember I worked at the DVLA in Swansea when I was in the reserves. And I remember just sitting in this huge tower block, looking out at the Brecon beacons, which you learn to hate as well as love, and thinking, there's more to life than this. This is a nice, cushy little job from where I came from, working class, council estate, no education to speak of, but a lot of adventure inside me. There's something going, there's something more out there, and I need to go and find it. It's not going to land on my lap, and I could just take it easy here. But let's go and do it. So that was the final push then to take the plunge and go full time.
I think it says on your profile there that it wasn't, you didn't get above a D in GCSE.
Yeah.
But you mentioned that you like to read.
Yeah.
So were you someone that you just weren't applying yourself in school?
Yeah, 100%. And the teachers would say to me all the time, "You got so much ability and potential, Lee, but you're not interested. You just can't knuckle down." And I did actually was the victim of my own bluffing it, as a bit like in the Marines, no cuff, too tough, was that I could, like the basic, the exams leading up to the GCSEs, I could just chin it off and then get a basic pass just by turning up because I had a little bit of aptitude for it. So they were really frustrated there, but I was like, I know what you mean. I said to them, but I'm interested in sitting in a classroom. I want to be out. I was in all sports teams, cross-country teams, and doing everything. And looking back, school came too early for me, and that's not me putting the school system down because it can't work for everyone. That's just me realising that a lot of lads are immature anyway, and I was probably even more immature than the other lads. And it wasn't until I got a bit older and more interested in subjects like geography and history and reading and English. Because at that age, I just wasn't interested in it. And there was a part of me going, I'll work that out later, which turned out to be a really great decision in the end. I was like, I've got time to think about that when I grow up. And school was, I wasn't like in trouble as mischievous as most young lads are, but I wasn't like into like real nasty crimes or anything like that. It was just a case of, I just wanted to be out having an adventure rather than knuckling down.
So what was the choice behind the engineer unit as the reserve unit?
That was literally the first one I came across. I worked in a warehouse, started to get more involved in reading military books. One of the lads in the warehouse, the drivers, came in and said he was joining because he was joining to get driving licenses out of it. He had a goal. He wanted to get something out from it. Or I just wanted to go and see what it was like and have an adventure. So he mentioned it. He said, I'm going down to next week to the recruiting thing. And I was like, yeah, I'll come down. So there was no choosing the engineers out as such. It was the first one that came along and it was a reserve army unit. I was like, yeah, let's go for it.
Do you feel like you got anything good out of it? Or what was the kind of experience like?
Yeah, I loved it. Made some great friends in there, friends for life. Met some absolute belters there as well. And which helped me then when I joined the Marines to realise like that they were how full of it they were. Just big, fat, 40-year-old truck drivers, weekend warriors, and not even warriors, just weekend drivers. Wanted to bully the young, skinny lad who just joined. So when I joined the Marines, I thought, they aren't treating me as bad as they were in the TA. They were a lot more grown up, even though these are the Marine Commandos. I'm expecting them to be brutal. I was like, they're actually teaching me things. They're actually encouraging me. And yeah, you're going to get beasted, of course, that's part of it. But I thought it was actually a lot more grown up and structured than the reserve unit. So, and of course, you get a bit of a heads up on a few of the things that you're going to be learning. So it did, put me in good stead. Mm-hmm. And I got a few trips out of that. I went to Canada. I actually did a deployment before I joined the Marines. So I actually done an operational tour as such. So yeah, it was a good experience.
Yeah. So how old were you when you started? What would you call it? Commando Depot.
So I applied when I was 22. I think it was actually 23 when I got down to Lympstone. So a lot older than some of the lads, but I think you can find that in the Marines a bit as well. You get lads who are a little bit older. And I was glad I did that because it put me in a much better mental position because a lot of lads joining, they were young, straight out of school, or maybe done a year or two out of school, hadn't really seen much of civvy life, still sort of living at home. And it was just rolling the dice, just seeing, well, give it a go, see if it's for me. Unless your heart's fully in it, when it does get tough, questioning a lot more then, well, actually, do I really want to be here? Whereas for me, I'd seen a bit of civvy life. I'd seen a bit of the TA. And before I joined, I'd made that conscious decision. This is what I want to do. And they could do whatever they want to me, for the reason. And I'm here for the long haul. So that did really help me, the fact that I knew for sure it was what I wanted. And when the chips were down, it made me a bit more like, well, yeah, I want this. So let's just crack on and get on with it. So I'm glad I made that decision to be a bit older. And it made it training a lot more straightforward in my mind for me.
Is there any particular moments that when you think back on that time at Lympstone that stand out to you?
Not really. I had one sort of moment of self-doubt. I think we'd done a particularly tough speed march. It was an unscheduled one as well. So the officer just took us, we were on Dartmoor on exercise, and he just decided to do an unscheduled speed march for us. So it wasn't the correct pace or weight. And I just remember absolutely hanging out on it, up and down the moors on Dartmoor, and getting to the end, blowing out, just about kept up. I got it mentally, but have I got it physically? Like, am I able, when it gets tougher, there's going to get from this, am I still going to be able to keep up? But it did. I passed out as King's Badgeman. So that is something that sticks out, really.
What's that mean, mate?
That's the best all-round recruit. And with the Marines, it's slightly different. It's not that the best person in every troop gets that award, or you're the best, no matter if you're all shit. He's the best, he gets the award. You actually go to a board with the Marines because it's to do with King George V, give his royal cipher. So they send a couple of recruits they think are the best in the troop at the end of training. You go to a board of officers, they ask you questions, look at all your reports, interview you, inspect you. And at the end of it, none of you could get the award. So a troop could pass out without a best all-round recruit. But I got it, despite a few misdemeanors throughout. And passed out straight through as well. No injuries, no back trooping, start to finich.
And which commando did you go to from there?
4-2 Commando was the first one. I guess the most poignant moment of training is the initial rocking up because Lympstone's got its own train platform, and that's the only way you can arrive as a recruit. And I just remember pulling up at that platform, absolutely petrified. It was, and there was one guy who didn't get off the train, shaking the old time. Doors opened, we all got off, and he just shook his head at us and went, "I'm going home, lads," and just rapped and stayed on the train.
Fucking hell. I mean, that's a hell of a thing when attrition starts on the train.
And you think, and I was just thinking, what does it take to 8 months of telling your family you're leaving, quitting your job, getting fit enough, going down for the pre-selection, to then right at the gates decide, nah, forget it, let's go back home. So yeah, it's a strange one.
Yeah. So when you got to your commando and everything, what kind of where are we now, kind of time wise?
So end of 2003 now. 4-2 Commando, first unit, and of course they've just come back from Iraq, haven't they? A few months sort of that summer. So not only are you join as the Sprog, and you got to get all the trimmings that come with that, but now there's a lot of old sweats who've just come back from Iraq as well. So you're a super Sprog. You mean the fresh face. You haven't done at all like they've just come back from. So it was quite hard that joining that unit. A lot of them had put their chit in. I guess they were only there to do their minimum time, minimum 4 years. They'd done a tour. They're like, job done. Let's get out of here. So it was quite difficult as well because a lot of them had sort of wrapped already. They weren't interested. They'd already got their chit in to leave. So they're sort of, I wouldn't say bullying, but treating you harshly. And I'm looking at them going, well, I don't even look up to you because you're already got 1 foot out of the door. But straight into it was straight on the mountain training, straight into 3 months in Norway, out in the Arctic. And it was a great start to unit life because there was no just hanging around camp. It was straight into being a bootneck.
So when did the first operation come around for you?
I had to wait. I did a couple of years at 4-2 Commando. Then they sent me up to Faslane, a submarine base, which was meant to be a 2-year draft. I ended up only doing about 7 months because a new unit formed in early 2006 down in St. Athan. No, I don't say, oh my God, stick first. I don't say the name of any units I served in directly, apart from the Royal Marines. It's just one of my things. In my books, I'm the same, and in any interviews. But anybody who reads between the lines will know exactly what I'm talking about. And you can say it. You can mention it.
RAF Regiment.
All right, I will deny that. I'll neither confirm nor deny unless you say
sorry, mate. It's on the public record now, mate.
I might have to start mentioning it in the books then.
So when you're at Faslane, mate, I've heard some interesting stories about that place. When it comes to like the way that lads pass the time. I mean, I think the Marines are pretty notorious for having some interesting stuff, joining runs and all that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us anything about, and did you come across any of that kind of thing when you're up in Faslane?
Yeah, loads. You go behind the wire, as we call it. So they send you behind the wire for 5 weeks. And you're basically a QRF, quick reaction force, in case somebody tries to steal our nuclear weapons. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of killing time and hanging around. You maybe have a couple of Bakshi lessons, and then you're just watching TV. You can't leave. This building. There's nothing you can do. So the games come into it then. One of them, you'd have to roll the dice, depending on what number you got, depending on what punishments you got. And these could range to, they had a sauna in one of the places. You had to sit in the sauna with a gas mask resi on for however long, I can't remember. So you're absolutely drenched with sweat now, breathing out of your hoop. And then they would send you down, imagine Scotland in the summer with all the midges, send you down to the river and the swamp, covered in sweat and salt and everything with this resi on, down to Midgey Bridge, as they called it. It was a little swampy area with a bridge, and you just have to go and stand there and get absolutely smashed by the midges. And
well, I'll tell you some of the ones I've heard was the Hurt Locker was one of the ones that I heard.
Right.
Which was you get put in a locker and then thrown down the stairs. Yeah. That was one of them.
Yeah, Hurt Locker. What was the Millennium was another one with the fire hose. Did you tell you that one?
No, I didn't know.
So you'd have to stand there with your helmet on, body armor. They'd get like the full force fire hose out, roll it, and you just have to stand there and they just point blank range slam you. They just knock you like 10 meters backwards on your ass. There was loads. They'd put a blanket over the TV. You'd have to sit in front of it again with your resi on, a bit of a resi fetish. And there was a music channel called Scuzz. So it was all like the Marilyn Manson, like, rah, and you have to like sit there for 4 hours just watching this TV with it blasting this music video in your face. Yeah, it was savage up there.
All right, man, let's go on to the tours then. So your first tour, when did you go out and where did you go out to?
May 2006, and it was Baghdad, Iraq. This tour was in support of Hereford, SAS. I will say that. There's enough books written about what they did in Baghdad for me to not be scared of saying it. So it was as a supporting troop to Sabre Squadron. This was brilliant, mate, because this is what I'd been dreaming of. I'd missed out on it by joining, by not going with the reserves. And I was finally getting my turn to go out and do the business on the ground. But not only was it my first tour, it's 2006, so we're post-invasion, and now we've got all the war infractions, Al-Qaeda, Iraq, the Shia, and the Sunni. But also it's at the highest end of operations that you can get with a Sabre Squadron, going out after high-value targets. So every night, either getting on a helicopter, the I-Star assets in the sky, the drones, the tracking mobile phones, the human intelligence, would lock down, not a pipe swinger, somebody who's facilitating the terrorist operations, the top tier commanders. He's in a farmhouse. He's just about to get his head down. We're going to get in a helicopter and we're going to get him. Or if it's in the city, we're going to get in a Humvee. And this was the beauty of it as well. It wasn't just my first operation and at the highest level, but the Brits were in Baghdad in an operational combat role. So, of course, we can't go out in British uniforms and Land Rovers. So we're dressed in US uniforms, same ones that they were wearing, if you see Black Hawk Down, those desert, that generation of desert rig. driving around in Humvees, using vision kit they give us, like the sand sight it was called, to go on my LMG. I hadn't even used it or seen it until we got to Baghdad. It was like we rocked up. We got off the helicopter. We were out that night. There was no, whatever, what do they call it when you go out to feed and you have 2 weeks? RSOI. None of that. Straight out, straight into camp, got the kit off the outgoing lads, which was a parachute regiment platoon. Got the kit off them. And it's the same with Black Oak body armour, which we'd never used until we got there. Got it off them, got the night vision kit. There you go, lads, quick heads up. 2 hours later, we were on a helicopter to go out. So it was just the best introduction to ops you could ask for.
Are you living in the green zone when you're up there?
Yeah, we're in the green zone. It's an area called MSS Fernandez. So you had Millionaires Row. You had all these mansions. Yeah, all these mansions that the Iraqi elite owned, the politicians and Saddam's lot. We now overtaken. But in these houses, not us, Elephant are in there. We were in the porta cabins opposite. We were in the trailer park trash across the road. But you had Navy SEALs in one house, Delta in the other house, Green Berets in the other one, Rangers in another one. Of course, head of an OSB, whoever was doing that tour in the other one. So this was in the green zone, but our own little compound or enclave as well.
So when you went out there, mate, what was your kind of role in the platoon? You mentioned there LMG gunner. Or?
Yeah, LMG gunner, and stepped up to Commando when that was 2IC as well, driver as well. We were only 6-man teams. So we broke down into 6-man teams. You have top gunner, driver, commander, and then in fact 5-man team, and then 2 in the back. And so you'd rotate between the different jobs within it. And that's how we'd got on the ground then. Yeah, I think if we went on the Elos, it was 6-man teams, but in Humvees, 5-man teams. So it was LMG, stepped up as team commander, and a bit of driving as well. Yeah.
And what was your relationship like with the Sabre Squadron?
It was great. Of course, you know your place, and they know their place. But it was really good. We had a brilliant tour with them. There was no friction. There was no aggro. There was no talking down at us or anything like that. It was seamless because we were there to back them up, and they appreciated it. And that helped me later in my career because on my last tour, which I don't want to jump too far ahead, but just as a thing, from that tour, I was a young Marine. And back on my last tour, it was with the same squadron. I was a troop sergeant acting as the troop commander because they don't send an officer on that op. So all now the troopers from that Baghdad tour, the troop commander, were now the OC and the team leaders. So it was like seamless as we go there. Hiya, Westy, mate, how's it going? And yeah, it made for a good relationship in the future as well.
What about working with like other kind of other nations? Did you work directly with the SEALs and Delta and that kind of group?
We didn't. No, we were in the same base. So we'd be knocking around. We'd go and use like the SEALs gym. They'd have a lobster and steak night on a Sunday. We'd go and like scavengers and the Brits, anything we can get our hands on. The Yanks are like loading it. So we're like hanging off their tails trying to mop up. But we didn't actually do any direct action with them. But
did you build relationships with those guys as well?
Yeah, we sort of chat with them and said we'd got them use their gym. And it was respectful as well. They let us use their gym. But we said to all ourselves, like, if we got there and it's quite busy, thin out, it's their gym. There's nothing worse than them thinking we're taking the piss. So it was good. Although we did have a couple of run-ins with the Yanks in in a different way.
Go on, eh?
Where we had a blow up. Yeah. Well, we got ambushed by them, basically.
Oh.
We'd been out on we'd gone out in Humvees, which is the most striking thing about this as well. We weren't even in the Land Rovers, which you could excuse them for. Nighttime job. We'd gone out onto target, locked it down, prosecuted the target, gone in, captured, back in Humvees, back to base. Now, that night we'd been watching quite a lot of firefights going on to the north. There was a lot of action going on in the city that night with the Yanks. They had their striker vehicles out, sort of armoured unit. And there'd been sporadic fights all over the city. And we were listening to it on the net as well. So as we're driving away from target, head back to camp, I just remember looking left and you're in this boom, closely followed by a whoosh. The boom was an anti-tank rocket being fired, and the whoosh was it, luckily, flying above our heads. And then heavy caliber machine gun fire and tracer coming towards us. Now, I knew straight away, and so did all the other lads, that this was the Yanks. Because you could tell the difference between a ragtag mob having a pot shot at you or sustained professional ambush fire. I think a couple of rounds hit our tyres, the deflector plates had come off them, no casualties. But of course, even though we knew it was the Yanks, wait to stop them shooting, shoot back. So the order was given, contact left. At which point, all the top gunners spun round. I think we had GMGs and GPMGs on the Humvees. They all spin round and start leathering them back. About 30 seconds or a minute or so, comes over the net, ceasefire, it's the Yanks. And we're like, yeah, we know, but they don't know we're not the terrorists, so we need to let them know in a different way. Mm-hmm. Engagement stopped, they stopped, we stopped, and we drove back to camp. So, of course, getting back, we want to know now. So one of the squadron lads had gone to get their debrief, their contact report. And you can laugh at it because nobody got injured in this. Their contact report said, we saw the enemy move in to our front, east to west. We engaged an anti-tank rocket and then machine guns from the vehicles. We then started to receive very accurate machine gun fire to our vehicles. It was at this point we realised it was not the enemy and we ceased fire. So it was quite funny. It was the fact that it worked. We fired back at them. They were like, shit, that ain't like a ragtag truck. And it ceased fire. But looking back on it, a professional, apart from the fact of shooting at their own blokes, should have taken us out in an ambush. They'd seen us, put us in their sights, and opened fire. They should have fucking taken a large part of our patrol out. But so luckily they didn't. And yeah, looking back, it's like we were in their vehicles. They had better night vision than us on those striker vehicles. We had strobes on the helmets. So their explanation was sort of their new unit in theatre. They're a bit twitchy, and there was a lot going on that night. They did actually they had 2 other blue and blues that night, and they did kill an American Green Beret as well. The same unit.
Same unit.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it was the exact same vehicles.
Right, yeah.
But that same unit that was on the ground. It could have been the same vehicles, but it was definitely the same unit, yeah.
They were fucking determined to bag someone that night.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the kind of distance of that contact?
Oh, good question. I don't think that was us. You got to be looking at 600 meters, maybe a bit more.
So close enough to know what Humvee is?
Yeah. Oh, definitely, yeah. Because we knew that they were armoured vehicles just by looking at them, yeah. Did
you... Obviously, you had, like blue on blue. I mean, they happen. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to British military. It definitely does.
Yeah.
But what about coming under deliberate contact from allies, Iraqi police force, etc.?
I don't think. No, we didn't actually have any with green on blue or anything with the Iraqi police force. We had like sporadic pot shots and stuff. That tour, we didn't get into any like long sustained, like you would do in Afghanistan, where the battle lines are a bit more drawn because it's a bit more open, because it was quite urban. It was pot shots and stuff like that. And the nature of the jobs we were doing, we were rocking up when they were in bed. So by the time they realised we were there, he was like trying to roll out of bed. And of course, these guys, they're not laying there armed. He thinks he's safe. He's just in his little house with his missus. We did do one actually deliberate action right at the end of the tour, which was really funny because the whole tour had been out most nights, helicopters, precision targets, pre-planned. And we got to the last week of the op and everything had now shifted to all the intelligence and building up targets for the next coming out. So, okay, well, we're not going to send you out on these targets this week. We're building them up for the next guys now. So it was a bit of a lull towards the end. So, of course, it's a shortage of high-value targets for us. There was no shortage of low-value targets. And the things that signaled to me that this was just a good old-fashioned advance to contact or not what we'd been doing were we got orders hours before, when usually it would be a quick call on the tannoy, all calls, get ready. QBOs, and then we're on the helo or in the wagons. This one, it was deliberate action orders hours before. We had time to prepare, look at the ground and everything. And then the other one was all squadron lads turned up on the ramp, ready to go out on. We've got on a helo. We're getting we were getting a 2K infill as well. So we were being offset rather than landing in the back garden. So like we're going to creep up. They all started turning up for this job with GPMGs, which I didn't even know they'd brought with them. They'd been carrying like C8, the equivalent of M4, the whole time. And I'm like, where do these GPMGs come from? So at that point, I'm like, yeah, this is just a good old fashioned dust up. And that's how it went down. They dropped us 2K from target. We patrolled in, different to the precision ones. This was a well-defended, lone gunman, low-level gunman hideout, or not hideout, but base. They had sentry positions. Again, the I-Star assets were watching it, and then a main building that was concentrated. And the plan was to just feeling around like you would do on a deliberate attack or a recce in positions. It was like, that group's going left, that group's going right. As soon as they bump into someone, they're going to start taking them out, and then we're going straight up the middle to the main building. And that's exactly how it went out. The guys to the left took out the sentry positions, and then I was on the rear of the main assault team, straight up the middle, and it was just firing. There was no taking prisoners or arresting anyone. It was just, as soon as you see them, drop them. So that was the sort of most conventional type of attack we done. I did actually, we captured one. I actually did capture one guy from that, where they had a squirt that ran off into the woods from the back of the vehicle. So we got Hammer in the sky, AC-130, with night vision and thermal imagery. So myself and the Marine officer captain were tasked to go off into the woods and track him down, which is quite an unenviable task. Pitch black, MVGs, brambles, thick branches everywhere, and it was a bit boggy. The aircraft talked us onto him. At one point, you're like 2 meters away. So I'm like, at the neck, this guy's like right in front of me. And then he went, you're on top of him. I can't be. He's thinking, is he going to open fire? Is he going to grab me? And my foot, as I put another foot forward, I stepped on the leg, it must have been. Obviously, brought the rifle up to put a couple into him, and he went, Mister, no, Mister, please, Mister, which humanizes it, doesn't it? It caught me off balance, and I was like, oh, right. So eventually we just captured him, disarmed him. It presents a big dilemma to me, and I've been asked before, people say, oh, what's it like if you kill someone? And a pretty generic question. And I look at this one in the opposite way, is because I could have killed him, and it was justified to kill him. That's what our purpose was. And he was armed, and he'd run off and was hiding, waiting for us. And I ponder on this in the opposite way, and because I didn't kill him, because that guy could have been released. We handed him over to the Iraqi police and forces, which we know are corrupt. And of course, not long after, ISIS and everyone else got in there, and all sorts went on. So it leaves you pondering, well, was it the wrong decision not to kill him that time? Think about if you kill someone, was it the right thing to do? And yeah, that does play in my mind. It's like, should we have killed him?
And what do you think?
I'll never know. Maybe he changed and learned the error of his ways and became a saint. In which case, it was the right decision. It helped loads of people. Obviously, I've got to consider the fact that he didn't, and he escaped and went on to kill a lot more people. But I guess I will never know, and I'll always ponder on it.
Well, yeah, no. And what about the reverse to that question? The killing people one. What about that one?
Well, that tour as well, we got investigated for murder. We'd been sent on to Basra, which wasn't our AO, but a target had cropped up. He was jumping across the border from Iran into Iraq. He had two wives, which is the classic example of how women will get you in trouble or killed. As it turned out, I mean, struggle keeping a girlfriend. I mind 2 wives. And he'd actually escaped Afghan during 2001 invasion. So they'd been tracking him. Right, he's down in Basra. We know where he is. need to go and do a Baghdad-style operation that we were doing on it down there. But the forces down there don't have the capability that we've got, the troops, the assets, the intelligence from Baghdad. So we're going to send our task force down to do it. So we got down there, and this was brilliant as well, because then we got in the British rig, Land Rovers. And I vividly remember the intelligence briefing or the orders. And in the briefing, the CIA agent stands up and goes, "We know where he is, and we want you to go and get him. However, Willard, we don't need him for questioning." Okay. The MI6 guy gets up, or whatever agency he was. Yeah, I concur. We know where he is. We want you to go and get him. Don't need him for questioning. So you're like, right, got it. And that's all they needed to say, of course. And obviously he didn't come back for questioning. But that wasn't the problem. Once we'd departed from target, and this brings up a lot of differences between us and the Americans and how we get a lot less support, which impacts on us on the ground, was we were on Baghdad rules, as you say. Now, the rules aren't any different. You're still under the same ROE. You've still got to stick by those rules of engagement, whether you're in Baghdad or Basra. But when we're in Baghdad, we did have a lot more freedom to fire warning shots, to use force. By the book, the guys down south were scared to do. Just my opinion, because we saw it on the ground where this whole investigation came from. The moment we left that gate, it was after curfew. Now, when we were in Baghdad and it was after curfew, it was curfew. Everyone was off the streets. And you would get some people out, but as soon as you put a laser on them or fired a warning shot, they were gone. Because they knew the Yanks weren't going to mess around. If they don't listen, they were going to get dropped. So in Baghdad, everyone followed the rules. We got to Basra and we couldn't believe what we were seeing. Parties on street corners, like big oil drums with fires in them. Just people everywhere approaching our vehicles. So, of course, we're in the mindset of where we've come from, laser, warning shot, trying to disperse them. And the looks on their faces was almost as if, "You cheeky gits, how dare you fire a warning shot at me?" Because they hadn't had that from the British troops down there. And that, obviously that ain't a fault of the lads. That's what I believe, the hierarchy. That the lads are scared to use the force that they're allowed to for fear of repercussions, which turned out to be true. So we went down there, we were finding warning shots and trying to disperse them. And then on the way back to camp, we come around the corner and the vehicle was approaching us, LMG. And as it's approaching, I put a laser into it, didn't react. Okay. Lifted the sights, warning burst above him. There's two of them in the car, two guys in the car. They swerved and then sped up towards us. Well, at this point, there's a couple of other vehicles had come around the bend as well by this point and joined me. We all lower our sights, bodies fall over, fall forward, car sleeves to a halt. We crack on. Get back, pack up, back to Baghdad. Then comes through the next day. British commander in M&D Southeast has ordered an investigation into the shooting and killing when you were on your way back to camp. Army lawyer came up. We had to give statements. And what was great was the squadron commander got us all in the room. He said, "Lads, before we came out here and we had the army brief to come over rules of engagement and everything, I said to you at the end, I trust your judgment and I will back you all the way." He said, "That hasn't changed. You were convoy and you acted within the rules of engagement. I will back you all the way." And to hear that from him was just brilliant. And it did go away because he wanted it to go away. It just showed that stark difference between that most nights in Baghdad, opening fire and dispersing people. Yeah, we did it once down south and boom, big complaint. I think the commander said he'd had more complaints in one night than he'd had in the previous 6 months of the deployment down there. They're like, "So what are you getting complaints? You're not a local councillor, mate. You're in a war zone." So of course they did die. And again, that wasn't cut and dry. Those guys could have been wrong place, wrong time. There's a massive chance that was the case. Again, I'll never know whether it was, we did the right thing legally and of our own safety. But again, I'll never be 100% sure whether those guys had just made a mistake and I don't know, being a bit naive, I guess.
I mean, really, it just goes to show as well, though. It's like you try and do softer rules of engagement, or even as you say, the rules are the same, but how you then implement those rules, you're trying to maybe do it for a good reason, but that can, then that causes its own problems.
Yeah,
because I agree with you, mate. I did 2 tours in Iraq around that time, and I never fired a round, and I had opportunities to. I was more scared of going to prison than I was getting brassed up.
Yeah. To justify for the QM of why you fired a round.
Right, you got a report for every round, yeah. But don't get me wrong, like there's plenty of lads that did put rounds down, but I felt that, and it did happen. Like you said, mate, it's not like it was just a myth. They did investigate it. I mean,
yeah,
and anyone who's there at the time who knows anything about it knows how mental Iraq was at that time. The idea that we were on the same rules as you would be if you were on a camp in Catterick or whatever is just...
Yeah, it's bonkers.
It's absolutely bonkers.
And you could turn that around and say maybe the commanders who created that environment for the troops that were scared are responsible for those 2 guys that we killed.
Yeah.
But because those guys were used to people not taking force against them. Whereas if they had been, when we turned up, they'd have been like, we ain't going near that convoy because they're going to shoot us. They're going to brass us up. So in a way, they've actually made it more dangerous for the locals there. They're able to take the mick, and the lads won't do what they should be doing and sort of keep them in line as such.
Yeah, I mean, like it was like as well, like the curfews are important because they do a lot of their stuff at night, and it's, there's a reason for trying to keep people off the streets. But anyway, so like that tour then, mate, was that your first time in Iraq, or it was first and last time, I should say, or did you go back again?
No, that was my first and only Iraq tour.
All right, well, let's leave Afghanistan for another day, mate. Then, if you've got three tours, because I know that's going to be a juicy one. Let's just talk more about your thoughts, about Iraq then, because like you said, you saw the invasion, which is obviously a phase where everyone probably thought us is going well, and then you were there in 2006, which was undoubtedly the Wild West. Like, what did you kind of keep tabs on what was happening in the country afterwards? Did you kind of develop an interest in the place?
I did. Definitely when I was out there, I wanted to know what it was like politically on the ground and what was the landscape out there. I think not so much afterwards, just simply because we were so busy. I went to Afghan in 2007. Right. We got back in November 2006, and we went. We did like a small call out to Oman and Africa area, but then we went to Afghan that summer, so I didn't really get a lot of time to sit around and think about the politics of it. But I remember getting asked, I think it was on the Jeremy Vine show about, I did something for the BBC on the 20th anniversary last year. And they asked me, do you think Iraq was a success or a failure? You're like, well, that ain't a question you can answer directly, because if you're talking about the initial invasion, as you said, well, that was a massive success in a very short space of time. They turned up, they rolled them over. George Bush is on an aircraft carrier, mission accomplished. You're like, well, it isn't, is it? Because now somebody's got to clean up the mess. And we went out in 2006, and it was a completely different environment. And I remember my daughter lives in the US, and I was down the park with her one night, and one of the park rangers come along, big, massively overweight guy, and he used to be a US Marine. And the street chatting, I was like, I was in the Royal Marines. He said, "Oh, did you go over there?" I was like, "Yeah, did Iraq 2006." He started giving it the old, "Oh, I was there in 2003. It must be really calmed down by the time you went there." And it's like, it was worse, but Baghdad was worse, because you weren't just fighting Saddam's army. You now had Shiite militia and the Sunni militia who wanted control of the country. And of course, those roles are flipped, because Saddam was Sunni, who were the minority, but now, of course, Shia in a democracy, they're like, well, we're going to get into power because there's more of us. But he also had AQI, Al-Qaeda Iraq, dropped in the middle, who didn't care about running the country. It was the new front line against... This was the place to kill British and American troops and just cause as much mayhem and destruction to stop a democracy happening. So, yeah, I always like to have a little bit of a sort of interest in the history and the politics when I go somewhere.
Do you feel like Iraq has kind of been forgotten if it was ever really understood at all by, like, say, the British public. Do you think that, like, what that American was saying? I mean, I'm definitely kind of inserting some of my own views here and seeing if you agree with them. But I'll just say it, like, personally, I've always felt like the idea the British public were given was Iraq was won in 2003 and there was a bit of peacekeeping and then we left.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you feel about it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's nobody knows unless they listen to things like this and find out what we were doing in 2006 and afterwards. That's exactly what they think. They think we went to war on a lie, caused a massive storm, and like you said, we left and just left a few peacekeepers there, which you can understand if you don't take a lot of interest in that country. That is probably the impression you would get from the news, because the news moves on. I mean, 2006, we went back into Helmand. Well, we went into Helmand, didn't we? So, of course, that was more prominent in the news. So I think it is forgotten war in a lot of ways as well.
Yeah, I mean, that mission accomplished was probably 20 years ago. And, I mean, we still got troops there now. I say we've got. I mean, I know Americans are still doing kinetic missions and stuff around that area. So it's like...
Yeah, and we'll probably have to go back there because we did ISIS. I mean, we were like, yeah, we're handing it all over to the Iraqis. Next thing, well, guess what? They're crap at doing what we did. ISIS have muscled their way in because that vacuum's been created. So, like you said, you can't just walk away. We still got people there doing advisory roles and small teams and stuff, but still there in some presence, yeah.
Do you ever work with the Iraqi special forces when you were out there?
Yeah, we had so much on that one. We'd have some of them, mostly like interrogation, which I will say it's their country, innit? A lot of the time it was just like if they got hold of them, once they'd arrested them, we were like, well, obviously if we see an atrocity, then we've got to step in. But the thing was, if we don't see it, it's their country. And that's what it would be. It's like, we'll go and arrest them, we'll bring them back. They take control of them. So we had small individuals and teams inserted with us as an Iraqi representative so that they could make the arrest and take them on to do whatever they wanted to do.
Just I should have asked this earlier as well, but what were your impressions of Baghdad as a city, as a place where people are living and trying to get on with their lives?
I mean, looking at it from the air, it's stunning. I loved like how it looked. It's obviously always great in nice weather as well, especially from South Wales. It rains all the time. And we didn't get a full reflection, of course, because when we went into the greater city, it was at night and everyone was in bed. So we would see the green zone and things like that. But I think whenever I spoke to like the people, they seemed great. Maybe a bit ignorant of me. They seemed to get on with them a lot more than I have done with people from other Middle Eastern countries, where it seemed to be a lot harsher and a lot more unreasonable. But I got on with them as a whole, yeah.
Were you coming like as part of your job in the night? Like, what was it kind of like coming face to face with people in the middle of the night who weren't expecting you?
100%, yeah. And for good reason. We'd go there because they weren't expecting somebody to come bursting into their house. So they'd be in bed most of the time. I can't think of any excuses where somebody shot at us from inside a house. There'd been sometimes where people had fired from roofs if they'd had other people in the area, but the actual person we were going after, I couldn't name a single instance where that individual fired back at us because they were just taken completely by surprise.
What was it like? Would they have their families and stuff with them?
Yeah, oh yes. And that's a really hard part is the screaming and sort of you see the kids as well. I mean, you're dragging your father out. They don't know he's masterminding a terrorist operation. It's dad. And you're dragging them out of bed. Their mother's screaming, wailing. If you've ever heard them, but they can wail, the Iraqi women. So that was difficult, yeah. I
mean, that is something you're probably used to in South Wales.
Yeah.
Wailing.
Yeah.
But I think with that though, mate, like, I mean, I've heard stories about, you'd get, I mean, it's probably different with high value targets because there is such an intelligence kind of package built up about these people and stuff. But, these instances of like, I mean, maybe this is like a lower kind of like that, like lower value targets. But Iraqis saying, they've got a feud going on with someone who, Bob, who lives down the street, and they're like, yeah, this Bob, he's working with Al Qaeda. Did you ever hear of anything like that where it turned out that did you ever get like, not say the debrief on the night, but a debrief a few weeks down the road where they were like, oh yeah, that bloke, this is what we got from him. Or was it just you got him, you hand him over, and that's the last one?
The int coming in would be unreliable a lot of the time. But luckily, because we had so many assets attached to us, they could generally work out before, because we listened to his phone calls and intercepting his texts. We'd have human intelligence on the ground. So there'd be loads of duff gen coming in all the time, and that's the intelligence crowd's job, isn't it, to decipher it. But I do have some bad stories about them, actually. A pretty bad one, the Iraqi forces, because they stitched me right up when I nearly got captured by Al Qaeda in the green zone. So myself and Mark, who's a paratrooper attached, so we were a bootneck Royal Marine troop with one para-reg guy as the trauma medic. So me and Mark used to, every day, we'd go on nighttime operations. We wouldn't get until 4 or 5 a.m. sometimes. We'd get up around about midday, have a briefing, and then get ready for that night. So Mark and me used to get up early to go down the hospital in the green zone in Baghdad, the cache, as they called it, to help out, chat up the nurses and even fleece all their welfare facilities, the internet, because the internet wasn't like it is now back then. Get on their terminals, drink all their French vanilla coffee, and chat with the nurses, and did actually build up a nice relationship with one of the American nurses. a dangerous liaison, as it turned out. And go there, the routine was or for any of us in that task force on the green zone, dress in civvies, take a pistol, SIG 226s we had with us, and sign out a civvy car from MT. So you just look like a contractor or a Westerner in the green zone. So we used to drive down. It was only 2 routes back from this hospital. And on one day, we'd left a bit later than we wanted to, and it was getting dark. As we were driving back towards our base, commotion at the front, so Mark's like, something going on at the roundabout. And we just saw a load of gunmen come out, stop in traffic. Now Mark's like, I think this is an illegal checkpoint, because they haven't got uniforms on, they haven't got any IDs, which you need some sort of badge or something in the green zone if you're a contractor. Middle Eastern looking, sort of like black pajamas, that type of dress. As he's talking, just to our right, there was a load of woodland. One walks out straight in front of our car, turns his AK towards our windscreen, points it straight at us. So at this point, we're like, this is a snatch attempt. Remembering back to a brief we got where it was between the 26th and 28th of September, there's going to be a snatch attempt on a Westerner in the green zone. Which when you hear that brief, you're like, yeah, they're gonna bag a contractor or a bank worker or something. So at this point, we're like, it could be us. The options were going to ring the QRF with a mobile phone, no signal. The options are, Mark is saying, I'm going to put my foot down and go straight through him. And I'm saying, don't do that, because as soon as you put your foot on that accelerator, he is going to open fire. So there's 2 different emotions getting played out in front of this car. Mark's, which was quite hasty, mine, which was quite subdued. And we've laughed after the event with this, that he ribs me saying I didn't realise how serious it was and I was being too slack with it. And I briefed him up saying he was flapping. But it turned out to be the right combination, as it turned out, because I'm still sat here now. So the decision was, right, let's just go along with him for the time being. Play dumb and work out exactly what is going on. Is this a snatch attempt or is it a misunderstanding? He started pointing for us to go out just up to the front of us, a right turning to go out to the security gate into the red zone, Greater Baghdad. He's pointing for us to go out there. And Mark's going, I ain't going out there. That's the red zone, the Wild West. And I'm going, agreed, we aren't. But let's just go along with it for now to buy some time, because we don't really know what option we're taking yet. So we pulled forward, again, considering should we do him through the window or maybe try and J-turn out. There's a lot of traffic around us at this point. So we complied, moved up to the roundabout where we got a bit more of an eye on the other 4 gunmen that were there. And at this point, we were like, they are terrorists. Pulled off the roundabout just aside, and then I said to Mark, go. Hit the brakes, both jumped out, came around my side, so it's left-hand drive now. Got our pistols out, drew our pistols over the top of the car. So cat amongst the pigeons now. The gunman's now just looking across back at the other ones for direction, because this weren't supposed to happen. We were meant to follow his directions. We go out the gate, and then they can put us in the bag. The Iraqi police and army are stood there watching all of this going on from the checkpoint. They're doing nothing. How it was resolved, me and Mark were like, right, we're going to have to open fire on him, leg it into the woods behind, and then just hotfoot it. Luckily, a Yank convoy came to the rescue in this instance. They turned up from a different direction of the roundabout, and the gunman tried to stop them. So they halted them, and the Yanks were straight on the loudspeaker. You and I are authorized to stop us. We are coalition forces. We will open fire. Talking their .5s. So I'm saying to Mark, right, we were probably going to lose against 5 AKs. We're definitely going to lose against a couple of .5s with the Yanks on them. Because if they see because we're in civvies, they don't care who we are. They don't know who we are, and they don't care. If they see 2 civvies shooting in their direction, they're taking them out. And luckily, the terrorists realised at this point then, right, the game's up. It's been stalled too much. We've missed the window of opportunity, and legged it straight out the gate, all in full glare of the Iraqi police and army. And you're just like, how corrupt, without you on your side, and you've had a hand in that.
So, sorry, mate, but like just to get this clear, this should be within an area that is cordoned off, manned by checkpoints. Like, how do these blokes just kind of come in and run a illegal VCP?
Yeah, it's all walled off, and the only entries are heavily guarded security. You mean full on? It's not just like you'd imagine in the desert with a barrier. These are fully built up gates with chicanes in front of them, because we have to drive in and out of them when we're going out. Massive chicanes to slow traffic down. People are coming in and out to work every day, of course, in this green zone. So they're getting ID checked. So these are really well set up security checkpoints. So like I said, there's no way you're sneaking through there. You got to have been given a green light by someone to get in through that thing. And it dawned on us as well, because we got back to camp and reported it to the ops room. And then the question is, well, how did they target us? How did they know that they wanted to get us? Because he definitely walked out and targeted our car. And what we decided was that every day we had to go into this hospital, there's 2 security. The inner one is the US troops. The outer one are like third-party forces, like Indians and Sri Lankans and Pakistanis and Africans, private security guards. To get through this double layer, load your weapon, if you're carrying one, and show ID. So, of course, every day, me and Mark are turning up, hair a little bit longer, not massively, or not Hollywood or anything. We didn't have beards, but we didn't have to shave every day. Scruffy civvies, unloaded pistols. Next thing, CID lads, British Army, Royal Navy. Well, who are these 2 characters? And that, obviously, they're watching. We turn up at the same time every day, leaving roughly the same time, build a pattern of life on us, and then obviously pass that on to who they need to. So, yeah, it wasn't just an opportunist. That was well planned.
Right. That's what happens, women. They'll get in trouble. Top tip for anyone on tour, just get yourself a nice sock and stay in your beds, please.
Scene, mate, scene.
Yeah. Anything else from Iraq, mate, that kind of jumps out to you that you want to share?
I think I was about it. It's quite eventful. Obviously, quite a few big ones in there. But yeah, and overall, it just, not just from those stories I got to be able to write a book about, it just so happened to happen to me. But it was just a perfect introduction to a first tour. One quite funny story, which I will tell it, although it might draw a little bit of suspicion. We used to take, when we captured the bad guys, we'd put them in our little compound and look after them until then they got sent up, I think it was Baghdad or somewhere up north, to get questioned and processed by the Iraqis. And it'd been a report of abuse, as you're always going to get. And I think they were complaining a lot of them were turning up with broken noses. And these were happening on target. Now, I 100% say that. We were not abusing prisoners. But anyway, they said there's a lot of broken noses coming here. Like, yeah, because they're resisting when we arrested them. And they sent SIB down to just have a look at where we were keeping them and how we were feeding them, which was all fine, all above board. As you'd expect, we were working at the highest level of our forces. But in this compound, when you watch them, you get quite bored. And it was big, this little area they were kept in. And we had a football in there. So when we were bored, we just, like the Iraqis were kept in the porter cabin. We were sat outside in this courtyard. We'd be kicking the football around. And what Paul said was that we were threatening them by kicking footballs and like creating like a hostile environment for them. And we were like, no, we're not kicking footballs at them or anything. We're not doing that. I think we just said, no, we're not kicking footballs or anything like that. Because we weren't actually abusing them with footballs, using them as target practice. But the SIB officer came up. This officer was like, no, I can categorically deny my men would do anything like that. He said, okay, can I have a quick look at the compound you're keeping him in? Yeah, not a problem. He walked in. The first thing he sees is a dusty football in the corner and just round dust marks all over this long wall next to the compound. And he's like, really? And one of the guys did get like a bad report. He took the hit. But yeah, we weren't doing it, but it was just funny that the first thing you saw was the football and the dust marks.
So, mate, you mentioned your book. Where can people grab your books from? Get to know a bit more about the man that is Wesley.
Amazon, of course. You can come to my bar. I own a bar, cafe bar in Swansea, Copper Bar. You can pop in and get a signed one off me if you want. Or Amazon is the best place to get them direct. But don't me on any of the social medias or anything. X. I can actually post one out if you want a signed copy as well. But Amazon is the main big hitter for searching for them. And the autobiography is called Never Above, Never Below. It is LG West. I've also got 3 other books as well from like some living homeless challenges that I used to do on my leave in between, crossing the channel in a dinghy and all sorts of mental stuff that we can't get into now because it'll take hours.
Yeah.
So I got 4 books in total. Yeah, the autobiography about all my military stuff, and then a few of the stuff I used to get up to in my spare time as well.
Yeah, well, I told you, mate, we've got to drag you back on here. You've got some great dates, mate. And hopefully I'll see you in Swansea next month too.
Yeah.
I'm going to be down there. I'll come in for one of them signed copies, mate. But yeah, thanks, Quinn. I'll link everything up down the show notes. Thanks very much for your time, bro. Very much appreciated.
No worries, man. Pleasure.